So here we go, guys. We're rocking it out. We're ranking the Foo Fighters' 10 studio albums that they have made to date. Now, this list was not exactly an easy one to put together. There's some really close calls here. And just because an album is towards the bottom of the list doesn't mean a whole lot. In my opinion, these are all good albums, every single one of them. Just some rank higher than others. So, with that being said, let's go check them out. Coming in at number 10, we've got Sonic Highways. Now, for this album, the band worked with producer Butch Vig again, and they traveled to 8 different cities to record the 8 tracks on this album. Overall, you've got a heavy tone to these songs, with 2 of the standout tracks for me being the opening track, Something From Nothing, and In the Clear. 2 great songs. And coming in at number 9, we've got In Your Honor. Now, this was the double album that the Foo Fighters made. You've got 10 rock tracks on disc 1, and on disc 2 you've got 10 acoustic tracks. Now, in my opinion, the acoustic disc was actually the stronger disc here. I found that the rock songs, all in all, just weren't as strong as the Foo Fighters had done in the past. As far as the rock songs that did stand out for me on disc 1, that'd be No Way Back and DOA. You've got Best of You in there, of course. But as I say, I found the acoustic disc on In Your Honor to be just as strong, if not stronger, than the rock side, with songs like What If I Do, Friend of a Friend, that was the song that he wrote for Kurt Cobain, and Cold Day in the Sun with Taylor Hawkins, their drummer, on lead vocals. Very strong song. Now, I know some people may really love this album, and there is some good stuff on there, but for me, this is where it sits. Now, coming in at number 8, we've got the brand new Foo Fighters album, that is Medicine at Midnight. Now, there is some very different stuff on this one from the Foos. You got some very cool melodies and beats and jives going on here. The opening track, Making a Fire, is very good. Check out Cloud Spotter, very cool track as well. The title track, Medicine at Midnight, that's got a real David Bowie type of riff to it. Real cool beat and vibe with that song. And also Chasing Birds, that would be another standout track on the album as well. That one's got a real Beatles type of vibe to it. So this album, definitely something different from the Foo Fighters. It's not way high up on the list, but that doesn't mean anything, as I said before. There's some really good stuff on here. May take you a few listens to get used to it, because it is something really different. But as I say, if you give it a chance, there is definitely some good stuff on here. And in at number 7, we've got Echoes, Silence, Patience, and Grace. So this album is kind of split into 2 halves. For the first part, you've got hard, heavy Foo Fighters rock songs, and the second part is much more acoustic. Now, the main deal on this album is that opening track, The Pretender. I remember when this song first came out, totally blew my mind. This is one of the best Foo Fighters songs they've ever released, in my opinion. However, that doesn't necessarily reflect the whole album. This one is a bit of a mixture for me, really. Some good, some not so good. The songs Stranger Things and Come Alive are standouts. Also, you've got Long Road to Ruin in there. That's a cool song. And of course, you had Let It Die, another big song off this album as well. But for me, this one just didn't totally hit the mark. So for me, I've put this one at number 7. Now, coming in at number 6, we've got a pretty big Foo Fighters album here. It's Concrete and Gold. It's a big sounding album, well produced. Check out the songs Run, La-Di-Da, Arrows, and track 9, where Paul McCartney, of course, from the Beatles, he drums, and Taylor Hawkins, the drummer, sings. Kind of reminded me what they did with Cold Day in the Sun from In Your Honor. And speaking of guest appearances, just mentioned Paul McCartney there. You also had Justin Timberlake. He sung some background vocals here amongst other guest appearances on this album. The title track, Concrete and Gold, check that one out. That's got a real Pink Floyd type of vibe to it. So the Foo Fighters just doing something different here again. And this album, it's a good one. It's got a lot of depth to it, and as I say, a really nice sounding, well-produced album. And we hit the halfway mark here, coming in at number 5, and we've got One by One. A big album for the Foos. You got some massive songs off here again. All My Life, one of the Foo Fighters' biggest songs they ever did. Great tracks like Low, Times Like These. That's really an amazing Foo Fighters song. Tired of You. There are a couple of not so strong moments on this album, but all in all, it's a pretty solid rock album. Now, trying to separate number 4 and number 3 was pretty tough for me, but coming in here at number 4 for this list, we've got There Is Nothing Left to Lose. This is a really good Foo Fighters album. You got some classic Fooey songs here with Stacked Actors, great way to open this album. You got Breakout, Learn to Fly, Generator, some huge hits there for the Fooeys. MIA, and you also had a really cool bonus track, which was Fraternity. That's a really cool song too. And also, this was Taylor Hawkins' first Foo Fighters album that he drummed on, so a really monumental moment right here. So now we go into the top 3, and it is Wasting Light. Putting this one ahead of There Is Nothing Left to Lose, this is a really solid rock album. It rocks hard. This was the Foo Fighters' 7th studio album and one of their best in my opinion. From the first track, Bridge Burning, this album just takes off and never lets go. Another cool thing here is that Butch Vig, who produced Nirvana's Nevermind, he produced this album also. And keeping down that line, you had Chris Novoselic, former Nirvana bass player, of course. He came in for the song I Should Have Known, playing bass and accordion on that. So really cool seeing Dave and Chris and Butch Vig getting back together for this one. I think that's why this album sounds so good. And as some extra bonus information, you also had Pat Smear officially returning to the band to play on this record. He, of course, had played with Nirvana as well, but hadn't been a member of the Foo Fighters since The Color and the Shape in '97. He left the band at that point, but came back for this one, so all that stuff combined just made this album totally awesome. Standout songs here, as I say, Bridge Burning, you got Rope, Arlandria, These Days, Walk. This one rocks. And at number 2, guys, we might have the most simplified Foo Fighters album, not massively produced or anything like that, like some of their other stuff, but it's the Foo Fighters debut, the one that Dave Grohl did all by himself. And this album's just so damn good in my opinion, just so many good songs on here. The album was recorded around 6 months after Kurt Cobain, Nirvana lead singer, died, Dave Grohl's former bandmate, of course. And it only took him about 1 week to record. Came out all the way back in 1995, and just some amazing songs here. You got This Is a Call, I'll Stick Around, Big Me, some other cool songs with Alone and Easy Target, Oh George, and Exhausted. And as an interesting side note, picked up Taylor Hawkins in an interview saying one time that he would like to go back and re-record this album now with the Foo Fighters band as they have now. You know, full band, big production, and just redo this album. I think that'd be interesting. Would really like to hear how that would sound. But there you go, guys. It's the Foo Fighters debut. Dave Grohl made this record by himself, and it's where the Foo Fighters all began. And here it goes, my number 1. It's gotta be The Color and the Shape, the Foo Fighters' 2nd studio album. For me, this is just a great album from beginning to end. The songs work together really well and flow on from one another, making this album a real awesome, complete sound. For example, when track 3, Hey Johnny Park, ends, that flows really well into the next song, My Poor Brain. Just seamless. And then going from the loud, heavy song Wind Up into the quiet start of Up in Arms, it just works so well together, so you get one uniform sound here. So really like how they did that. And just some massive songs off this album. I mean, Monkey Wrench and Everlong, they are like 2 of the biggest Foo Fighters songs ever. Everlong would be their most popular song, the one that everybody knows them by. Doll, such an awesome way to start off this album, just a nice quiet song, and then you hit into Monkey Wrench, it just totally hits you. So this album, very well put together. Other great songs like Hey Johnny Park, My Hero, February Stars, Walking After You, and the last track, New Way Home, such a cool song. So this album, all in all, does it for me. And adding on to all of that, I believe another reason why this album really stands out is because Dave Grohl, he pretty much drums on this entire album. Barring like a track or 2, Dave Grohl did all of the drumming here, so there's no wonder this album sounds as good as it does. Their most solid and awesome piece of work, in my opinion. Great album. So thanks guys for tuning in. Want to hear your list down in the comment section below and what you think of the Fooey's latest release, Medicine at Midnight. These are just my rankings and the way I see it, and I know everybody's got their own opinion, and it's always interesting to see what others come up with. So before I go, want to say a definite thanks to the Foo Fighters for keeping rock alive for all these years and not letting it die. They started all the way back in 1995 and they are still here, so that means a heck of a lot. Some great albums and amazing songs through the years, no doubt. So leave us a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time.